Okay, so let me tell you about someone's daily routine. This person naps after lunch, spends several afternoons a week golfing and tending to his garden, takes months-long international vacations, openly brags about avoiding hustling, and says, and I'm quoting, that he succeeded because he shirked, did less work, and lived more in the open air. Now, who is this guy? This guy is none other than John D. Rockefeller, one of the wealthiest human beings who ever lived. Now, I'm not here to tell you to stop working hard, nor am I here to tell you that you have to measure your success by your wealth. What I am here to tell you is something that most career advice completely ignores. The habits and mindset that made Rockefeller successful in the first half of his career were completely different from the ones that made him successful in the second half of his career. And if you don't understand the distinction, you will hit a ceiling and you won't know why. I'm Nadav. I'm a professor at INSEAD where I study how people make decisions and lead and grow. And today I want to talk to you about what I call the effort ceiling, what it is, why even the highest performers run straight into it, and what the science says about how to break through it. So let's start at the beginning of most people's careers, when you're new, when you don't have a track record, when you don't have a network and you don't have influence. What do you have at that point? Well, you have time, you have energy, you have the ability to work hard. So that's what you use. You put in the extra hours, you take on projects that nobody else wants, you over-deliver, you make yourself indispensable, and it works really, really great. Effort equals reward. You work harder, you get more. You show up earlier, you get noticed. You take on more, you advance faster. And this isn't just folk wisdom. Research, of course, backs it up. Studies consistently show that effort is one of the strongest predictors of early career success, precisely because early roles are individual and task-oriented. What you personally produce is what gets measured, and the more input you put in, the more output you get out. Pretty simple. And it's pretty good advice for a while. Here's what happens next. If you're good at your job, if the effort equals reward equation is really working for you, then your responsibilities grow. You get promoted, you're given more complex projects, and you start leading other people. Now, this is where something changes dramatically, because the same strategy that got you here, working harder, doing more, taking everything on yourself, that strategy starts to produce diminishing returns. And then it stops working entirely. Here's why. All of us have cognitive and physical limits. There are only so many hours in a day. There's only so much mental bandwidth that any one brain can hold. When your role was individual and task-based, these limits didn't matter much. You could push through them with effort. But once your role expands to leading a team, managing competing priorities, solving open-ended problems, the sheer volume of all of that outpaces what any single person can execute. And it doesn't matter how hard you work, how early you get up, or how many weekends you want to sacrifice for your job. You've hit what I call the effort ceiling. And here's what makes it so dangerous. The people who get hit hardest by it are usually the most talented, most driven people in the room, because they're the ones who succeeded through their effort. They built their entire identity around it, and they got rewarded for it for years. So now the very thing that defines them is the thing that's actually holding them back. So before I get to the solution, I want to explain why this transition is so hard to make. Because it's not just a practical problem, it's a psychological one. Research shows that we are wired to associate effort with value. We admire people who work hard, and we trust people who visibly sacrifice for their jobs. We feel proud of the things that we have personally built. There's even a name for this in behavioral science, which is the IKEA effect. People value things more when they've assembled it themselves, which is what IKEA, the furniture company, discovered. This bias runs very deep. So when a high-performing person hits the effort ceiling, their instinct isn't to step back and delegate. Their instinct is instead to push even harder, to work even longer, to take back the tasks that they gave away because it's just faster if I do it myself. It might be faster, yes, in the short term. But in the long term, if you do that, you just confirm to your brain that the old equations still work when it doesn't. This means that the ceiling gets lower and lower. It just means more pushing, more burnout, and less accomplishment. That's the trap. So here's the alternative. At a certain point in your career, the equation has to change. It's no longer effort equals reward. It becomes effectiveness equals reward. And it sounds simple, but notice how big of a shift is it. Under the old equation, your job was just to do the work. Under the new equation, your job is to enable the work, make sure it gets done. Your measure of success is no longer how much you personally accomplish in a day. Rather, it's how well you set up your team to accomplish things that you couldn't do alone. This is the shift from execution to leadership, from being a doer to being a multiplier. And it requires something that high performers often find genuinely uncomfortable, which is letting go, delegating tasks that you could do better yourself. In other words, what you're doing is you're giving somebody else a task knowing that that person is slower and less competent than you, but you're doing it in order to free up your time to enable even more people to succeed. What you're doing is you're trusting people to figure things out for themselves, even if it takes longer than it would have taken you. You have to measure your wins not by what you checked off your own list, but by what your team achieved. So Rockefeller understood this. Many other amazingly successful people in all domains understood this. By the time they're running large organizations, they're not the ones doing the accounting. They're not the ones managing every factory, office, unit. They've already built a system, and their job became to tend to that system, not to execute every task within it. So now you would have time to nap and golf if you'd like, or even better, achieve even more of your goals. Now, this is important. I'm not saying you should stop working hard. The effort equals reward equation is real and it matters, especially early on. The question is, how do you know when it's time to shift? There's no alarm bell that goes off, but there are 3 signals that are worth watching for. The first signal is actually internal. Your relationship with work changes. What used to energize you now drains you. You used to look back at the end of the day and feel proud of what you did. Now you look back and feel behind, even when you worked just as hard. This feeling of perpetual catch-up, of never quite getting on top of things, is often the first sign that the old equation has stopped working. The second signal is external. What happens is you start missing expectations, not because you're less capable. In fact, you're more capable, but because the expectations have shot up way above what you can achieve on your own. You find yourself having conversations with colleagues or managers where you're explaining why something didn't get done. And that explanation is always the same. There's not enough time, there's not enough hours in the day. That is the effort ceiling right there. The third signal is the nature of the problems that you're facing. Early career problems tend to be closed-ended. There's a task, you need to complete it, you need to figure out how to complete it, you move on to the next one. Later career problems are much more open-ended. They're questions that don't have clean answers. They require judgment, coordination, the work of many people over a long period of time. When your job starts looking more like the second category, when you're constantly tackling questions rather than tasks, that's when the shift should happen. So here's what I find most interesting about all of this from a psychological standpoint. Shift from effort to effectiveness, it's not just a change in strategy. It's a change in what gives you satisfaction and happiness. Early in your career, your satisfaction came from doing, from finishing, from completing, from something tangible that you did with your own hands. At the next level, that has to evolve. Your satisfaction and happiness have to come from enabling others, from watching somebody that you've coached solve a problem that they couldn't have done before, from seeing a project succeed because of a team that you built, not because of anything that you did personally, but because of the team that you put together. In research, we sometimes call this learning to live vicariously, finding meaning in other people's growth rather than only in your own. And I want to be clear, this is genuinely hard, especially for high performers. It can feel like you're doing less, you're contributing less. It could feel like a kind of a loss. But what you're actually doing is unlocking a level of impact that individual effort can never reach on its own. That's what every great leader eventually figured out. The most successful people aren't the ones who worked the hardest or the longest, although they did work hard and long at a certain point in their career. Rather, they're the ones who recognize when the game has changed and they were able to change with it. So wherever you are in your career right now, it's a question worth thinking about. Am I still playing by the rules of an old game? Am I measuring myself by how much I personally got done when the real measure should be at this point how well I'm enabling everyone else around me. If the answer is the second possibility, if you recognize in yourself the signs that I described, that's not your failure. It's just a signal that you have to change. It means that you've grown past the stage where your own individual effort is the ceiling. Now the question is whether you're willing to change the equation. If this kind of thinking about careers, leadership, and the science of human behavior is of interest to you, that's exactly what this channel is built for. So subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.